Make sure that the presenter works before you begin. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Okay. Thanks.
Floor is
Okay.
yours.
Have you guys ever noticed that people are always talking about the decline of morals in society? Remember when politicians weren't corrupt, and do you remember when children didn't talk back? Did this happen overnight, or do you maybe think that this happened all along and maybe our eyes weren't open to it? I feel that the people with the means to show us this decline have in recent years. I'm calling this the decline of ethic. Merriam-Webster defines this decline of ethic, or as ethics, as a set of moral principles dealing with the good and the bad. And I want to talk about this decline in 3 parts with you. First, by going over old media standards and practices and somewhat of an unspoken code that was upheld. Second, by going through the signs of decline in media ethic. And third, by showing how this decline has kind of impacted our lives, and we may not even realize it. So I want to start by giving you an overview of the moral code that was upheld as far back, we'll say 50s. I know it sounds like it's not that far ago, but 50 years. It began with things like radio broadcasts, moving into newspapers, and then actual television stations. And news broadcasts then were mostly statistical, a lot of things about politics, crime, presidents, and things like crime movements, civil rights movements, things like that. But as we began to change, so did the media. And I think it was said best in a 2003 article by Denny Elliott that said that the world has changed, the people have changed, and that journalism has changed with it. It's an entire progression, it's a cycle. You can really see how the past was with its ethics by looking at the things that were taboo. Even in 1974, there was an article published stating about the media that was present by saying that death is forbidden in modern society because entire Western culture is focusing on life, joy, happiness, love, and that kind of made everything taboo. Sex, death, scandal, murder. Basically everything that now is present fully to us all the time. So now that I've kind of told you about the unspoken code that was present, I kind of want to talk about some examples that we've kind of seen. This is a picture of a woman falling from a burning building with her child. The balcony, they were on the balcony itself started to collapse. They didn't have enough time to get to the bottom, and the firemen didn't have any way to get them out. So what she did was she jumped and she pulled her son or her daughter with her. She died instantly. This photograph was taken by a man named Stanley J. Foreman, who was a photographer for the Boston Herald. Normally, this is the kind of thing that you wouldn't really show, especially in the 70s. This became a front page article. This went from the Boston Herald to the Times and a lot of different publications. He won his first Pulitzer Prize because of it. So that's really showing how in the 70s even things like this happened. The next one I want to show is a little bit more recent. I'm sure a lot of you have seen Nancy Grace, maybe on television. She is a very famous prosecutor who wound up getting her own television show on CNN. She's been linked to a couple of scandals recently, maybe the most popular being the Melinda Duckett case. Melinda Duckett is a young woman who lost her child in the middle of the night. She was due to do an interview with Nancy Grace, hopefully getting some support to find her child. Instead, the interview was mostly Nancy Grace berating her and where's your child and why can't you find your child. 2 days after this really embarrassing interview, Melinda Duckett committed suicide. This is a really extreme example of how society is just letting journalists and media kind of push us around. Since 2006, her family has been pushing many cases to have Nancy Grace sued for what happened to Melinda Duckett. So I've just gone through some extreme examples of media and kind of what its decline is. But what is it really now? How is it kind of interfering in our lives? Perez Hilton. We've all seen him, we've all heard him, we've all been on the website. He's a very famous person. But the problem is, when you go to his website, do you really think about what you're seeing? Over here, we have famous singer, Lily Allen. She's smoking and he's pretending that she's pregnant. Where in society is it okay that a lady is pregnant and smoking anything? Besides the fact that this was a lie. But we took it and we thought it was funny and we watched it. And then on the right we have famous Miley Cyrus. Obviously using a microphone, and you can tell that he's manipulated it to be something different. And you see, that's funny too, I'll admit, it's hilarious. Problem is, she's a 16-year-old girl. He's a man. And that's weird. Okay, so we've come to accept this cyber world, and we just let this happen. And he's become so famous on berating people and letting us think that these things are okay. So with that, I just want to remind you guys that maybe next time, before you turn on 1,000 Ways to Die on Spite, that you think about how this is actually impacting you before you let you and your children, your family watch these things, and think about maybe starting your own moral conduct before this gets way out of control. Thank you.